to talk about the rail side of the business. Austin, give me a hand, would you please?
Thanks, Jeff. All right, so tonight we're just going to kind of go over TGM's rail presence in Central Illinois and what markets we do serve and how we can kind of take advantage of some basis, I guess, opportunities throughout the country. So that's actually our KZ facility, our largest rail loader. About a quarter of TGM's total volume, corn and beans combined, moves through that via rail. So we've got 8 rail loaders in Central Illinois. Furthest one up northwest there is Cadwell, sits on the UP rail line. Next to it is Arcola, can load 50 cars going down the CN rail. Charleston can load 25 cars and hit the CN or the CSX. Neoga is a unit train loader, can hit CN or CSX rail lines. KZ sits on the CSX main line. Watson, 25 cars down the CN. List, 25 cars on the CN. And Willow Hill can ship units on the CN or CSX rail lines. So we can serve 3 Class 1 railroads, which kind of disperse throughout the countryside. On the corn side, CSX rail line, that's our KZ, Willow Hill, and Neoga facilities. They're all unit train shippers, so we get a pretty good rate on that, and we move a lot of volume through these 3 facilities. The markets they hit, the ones up in the north there, the 5 yellow stars, are all ethanol plants, Indiana, Ohio, New York. This year, I think we're probably going to end up shipping corn up there because there's a lot of vomitoxin in the Ohio region, so therefore they get to pull corn out of Indiana and Illinois to go into ethanol. And does anyone know what's all down in the southeast corner there that uses a bunch of corn? A lot of birds. Mississippi and Alabama are actually the 2 biggest broiler raising states in the U.S. That right there is a map of chicken production, broiler only, in the U.S. where it's concentrated. Concentrated. Georgia raises by far the largest amount of broilers in the U.S., followed by Alabama. And that's where a ton of our KZ corn goes. If it's not going to ethanol, it's most likely going to one of these 2 states. Followed by Arkansas, North Carolina, Mississippi. That's where a lot of our CN corn goes if it's not going to the Gulf. And behind that is Texas, which is where some of the UP corn goes out of Cadwell. Feed demand in millions of bushel. Beef cattle and poultry, honestly, they alternate. Over the last 8 years, it's hard telling each year which one's going to be a bigger demand. This past year, beef was, with poultry only 7 million bushel behind it. So as you can tell, it is a huge, huge market in the U.S. Switching gears to the CN, this is our Neoga, Willow Hill, List, Arcola, and Watson. They all ship down the CN with the exception of Willow Hill and Neoga sitting on short line railroads, so they can ship CN or CSX. So the CN corn, it's either going to go down to southern Mississippi and feed poultry down there. If it's not going to go there, we're going to go a little bit further and hit the Gulf market for export. This year there's a bunch of corn going by rail and barge down to the Gulf market to serve our big export program. On the left here is the biggest export house in the Gulf, actually, where the majority of our corn does go for export and get shipped out, Zeno Grain. The Cadwell market, which I said can only ship 25 cars, but it serves the East Texas. And once again, a lot more birds, with Texas being the number 6 state in the country for poultry production. So I just put this together on my own, and it only has last year's data in it, but this is our rail volume, TGM only as a company, what markets it serves. So 66% of our rail corn went to poultry production in the U.S., 22% to ethanol, and 11% to export. We also had 1 train go out of Neoga to North Carolina, which served Smithfield pork out there. Moving on to the soybean side. CSX soybean destinations. These are all processors, with the exception of this one on the bottom left here, which is an export house in Mobile, Alabama. There's a bunch of soybean meal produced in the southeast to serve the big feed demand of the poultry markets. Mobile, Alabama, that is the main exporter on the CSX railroad. We're shipping a lot of beans there this year. They do load boats going to Taiwan, China, anywhere really in Southeast Asia. Kim and I actually got to check out this facility last year. Really, really impressive. They can load out 2.1 million bushel in about 2 days, and they are cranking out boats this year with the export program. Switching to the CN side for soybeans, 25 car units out of our List, Watson, Arcola. A lot of times we go to Southern Illinois, Cairo. There's a processing plant there that Bunge has. If they don't go there, the hundreds go all the way down to the Gulf for export. There's a huge market for that this year. If they're not going down there by barge, they're going down there by rail. And there is not a sitting rail car. There shouldn't be anywhere in the country right now. I mean, they are all cranking beans out of the Gulf. They also go through the Zennograin export house. The majority of ours do. There's several other export terminals in the Gulf. But like I said, the majority of ours will go through Zennograin's export house. So I put this slide together. This is last year where our rail shipments went compared to where they've went so far this year. So last year on the left, 83% of our rail shipments went to crush houses, mainly in the southeast, and only 17% to export. And that we just didn't have a big export program with the Chinese tariffs and everything else going on. This year is the exact opposite. In the last 3.5 months, we've sent 78% to export and only 22% to crush. And those numbers are probably going to stay pretty similar to that all year. And if you look at the truck side, it would even be more significant due to the amount of beans we've got moving to St. Louis right now. It's just unreal the size of this export program. I just put these slides together for informational purposes, just to try and get a handle on the size of the amount of bushels that we're shipping out of the country at a time. You know, a truck only holds 900 bushel coming into the elevator. We'll put 400 trucks on a train to be about 360,000 bushel, and then 5 or 6 trains on a boat equal to about 2,300 trucks. And these boats are, I mean, there's tens of them going out weekly, so it's crazy. With that being said, this year so far, corn, beans, and wheat combined being exported out of the U.S. is over 2 billion bushel. This is actually last week's number. That's closer to 2.1 right now, which is 2,230,000 semi-loads that we've shipped out of the country already, over 500,000 rail cars, or 960 vessels, and that's equivalent to about 34,000 barges as well. But the export program this year is huge. I mean, it's the reason we've seen really good prices, really good basis levels. There's a lot of bushels moving right now, and it's definitely keeping us on the toes with the rail markets. That being said, that is all I have right now. Can I take any questions or?